Hi, I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married.
With children.
We're going on 2 years of marriage.
But we've been together for 10.
He brought 2.
She brought 2.
Together, that's 4 kids.
That's way too many kids.
And we want to share what works for us.
And what doesn't.
For step-parents, co-parents, marriage, being your best self, managing work, family, friends, health. We're going to talk about...
everything.
You ready, babe?
Always.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another Everything Always podcast. Today, it is me interviewing my super good friend, Shana Pennington, who now lives just down the street, which is super awesome because our boys like to play together. So it's so much fun. But Shana and I have had so many really, really good conversations when it comes to blended families because she's grown up in it. This has been her world. And so the insights that she has are so wise. And I was like, will you please be on my podcast so we can talk about these things? And she said yes.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Excited to be here.
Yay. So to understand, so our listeners have a background of what it was like for you growing up, what was your family dynamic? Can you tell us your story?
Yeah, so I was a 5-year-old. My brother was 7 when my parents divorced. And I think what the dynamic for us was kind of different is that we moved a 2-hour flight away to where my grandparents were. So there was this instant, you no longer live with your dad. So there was no custody battle. There was no 50 sharing custody. Every other weekends, we kind of just saw him every year, maybe once or twice a year.
Oh, wow.
So that was weird.
Yeah.
We had my grandparents and we actually were pretty young. We don't remember much of what went on. So it's all I ever knew. And yeah, we had a pretty happy childhood, I think.
Awesome. So then after that, what happened with your mom? Did she?
We lived with our grandparents for about a year.
Okay.
And they were very involved in our lives.
Yeah.
And then both my parents remarried a few years later.
Okay.
And both had baby boys in the same year.
Wow.
So I suddenly had this baby in the house and I was the big proud sister. But there was also this baby 2-hour flight away. And, it was like, that's cool. And then when I was 19, there was an 18-month-old baby, which is my sister, who's now 22. And
wow.
We've been able to just, see each other as much as possible.
So that's a big age gap.
It's a huge age gap. So there's I'm the big sister.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear their side of the story of how that went down for them. But what's also interesting is when my mom met my stepdad, he was only 25.
Oh, wow.
So you have a 25-year-old taking on 2 young kids.
Yeah.
And, I wonder what that was like for him. I'm also sure there was this awkward dance for the 2 father figures. What's my role in the different ages?
Yeah.
My grandfather too played a pretty big father role figure for us. And there must have been this what is my role? What am I supposed to do at this point? She already has a father, but he's 2 hours away. A lot went on.
You guys have a really close relationship.
We're super close.
Yeah.
I mean, he walked me down the aisle at my wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I know a lot of people that have had, they've been quite older and a new sibling comes in and they haven't been close. It's kind of just been we see each other. I mean, your sister's coming out to celebrate your birthday all the way from South Africa.
We have just made up for lost time, all of us.
Yeah.
And it's just been awesome. When I became an adult, I started to really seek out that. Yeah. My older brother and I, because I had an original brother from the original marriage. I call him the original brother.
The OG.
Yeah, and we just made it what we wanted it to be. As much as we could, we would get there, And then these siblings that we just wanted to really spend the time with. I guess that was ingrained in us as children, that family is so important.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then life gets in the way and I met my husband and I moved to Holland. So whatever, routine we did have totally fell away.
Right.
And then there was this gap where I didn't see any of my family. We then moved back to South Africa when we had our first baby. And my father started to travel to Durban more and more because he had, he was able to be there with work, but he was reaching out because he had a grandchild to
right.
visit, And one of the other funny things that happened was the little brother that I did not grow up with actually moved to our town at some point.
Oh.
So we got super close because we were now neighbors.
Yeah.
You know? So now we live in America, and we've really had to work at it because of the even greater distance for all of my family members.
And I've gotten to meet all of them.
You have. And we've just been like, I feel like it's always this making up for lost time and just having as much fun and enjoying each other's company as much as we can. And
I mean, I feel like even people who have family just a state away, you still see and do more things with your family than they do. Like, it seems to be really important.
Effort.
Yeah.
And it takes, I mean, it's not hard work because we all love each other and we want to be in each other's lives, but it's about being intentional and making those things come to life.
Yeah. So now, you know, I've seen you with your stepdad and your mom, and then I've seen you with your dad and your stepmom. I've seen you all together, and I'm just like, it's such a beautiful thing. And I've seen like how connected you are to all of them. But like you said earlier, you had all of this time that you weren't actually living with your dad or seeing him on the regular, like every other weekend or 50-50. And I feel like a lot of people that would cause more strain in a relationship later on as an adult, but you've never let that happen.
If you let it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not always as positive about my situation. There's times where I get super sad about the loss of time.
Yeah.
And I feel like, well, I missed out and I was cheated and I never got that. But all I can do now is take whatever I can get.
Yeah.
And again, make up for lost time. Life's too short to hold grudges and to live in the past and be like, this could have been and that could have been. And I have to look at the positive things too. Like, instead of having, like, growing up in a family that wasn't split and harp on that, I now go, but look, I have 3 extra siblings. I got that time with my grandparents. I have a loving stepfather. Like, and it's only going to continue as my siblings get married and they have children, and that's already started.
Yeah. This would be even, you know, for teenagers or kids to hear, but then also for parents to hear what their children's perception is of all of this. And a lot of young kids will have this feeling of either guilt, or they feel like this grudge against maybe the parent that they didn't get to see, or they have those feelings that they carry through all the way until like forever.
You can.
I mean, some people do. How did you, like, what helped you to say, I'm not going to do it that way?
You know, I've even seen siblings resent other siblings.
Yeah.
And have jealousy because they're like, well, you got to grow up with my father and I didn't.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way. I just love them. And for me, it's just more love and yeah, I just have a bigger family.
That's like a big choice to
I don't
make.
know how. I think I must have just been brought up to realize that the most fundamental thing is, you know, life is about relationships.
Yeah.
And if you can get that right, you can have a pretty happy life. And it's just not worth it. It's not worth to be stuck in the past and bring up the could-haves and the should-haves. A lot of what happened to me shaped me as a person. It's made me a super strong person, that's for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends call me fearless.
Definitely.
What's really helped for me is, you know, people say time heals. I believe time with heals, which means the fact that we have been able to come into each other's lives and it was just kind of pretty naturally, you know, happened. The time with each other has totally...
So the healing came from being together instead of like...
having more distance.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people can push another person away because, well, you didn't do that and, you know, and have that grudge. But yeah, it's more about being open.
Yeah.
Opening your heart to whatever somebody's willing to give you.
There's so many, obviously, you know this, there's so many different dynamics. There's, you know, a child who maybe one parent isn't allowing them to see the other parent. You know, we've talked about this on our podcast before, parental alienation. And then a child can form a grudge with that parent, and then that parent comes back into their life and they're like, nope, sorry. Or there is, you know, well, both have moved on and they live in different states, so they're not able to see each other. You know, there's so many different dynamics. And what seems to be the hardest, and you and I have talked to teens in situations like this that pretty much have decided, if that person comes back in my life, or if I'm going to see them more, I'm not talking to them. And you had said something in one of our conversations about, you know, people might not at the core totally change, but they do grow.
They can certainly grow.
Yeah. Yeah. See,
if you want people to give you the grace to be able to be somebody different and to grow into, then you have to give them the same grace. And be like, I don't care what happened before.
Yeah.
You're still my mother. You're still my father. You're still my brother. I see siblings that don't talk to each other. I see, it's just awful. And my advice for people is just to take all the animosity aside and just try and achieve the harmony.
Yeah.
And that's difficult in just a regular family that isn't split up.
Right.
That split never goes away, though, with divorce. Divorce is forever. And that's really what I want to tell people now that are blending families with young children. It's so easy to think about the challenges and the struggles for right now, you know, custody battles and all of that. But what you really want to do is think about the future.
Yeah.
And you want to be like, what kind of relationship do I want to have with my ex's spouse?
Yeah.
Because one day when your children are older and they have children, you want to be in the same room as each other.
Yeah, you don't want to miss out on all the important things because of
something that happened 40 years ago.
But that happens.
It does happen. Happens all the time.
It's all that, I mean, there's still people that are like, my parents are 65 years old, whatever, they will not be in the same room. It's like, come on.
Our wedding, my husband and I, that was the first time that my two sets of parents were in the same room together.
Wow.
Mainly because of the actual physical distance.
Right.
But everybody pulled it in and they were like, this is not an option. This is happening.
Yeah.
There was no like, I'm not going if she's going to be there, or I'm not going if he's going to be there.
Yeah.
Everybody just sucked it up and was like, oh no, the most important thing is that Brad and Shana were there for their wedding.
Right.
So yeah, priorities, just not getting stuck in the past.
Yeah. But people do.
People so do.
And it's so hard not to. I like that about looking at the future and what do you want it to be, and really thinking about the child's experience with that.
I've had moments where I feel like I'm betraying my other parent by talking greatly about one, or spending more time with the other, or being like, I really like my father's wife. Like, she's really awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I can be betraying like my other parent for saying that.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. And I've spoken to other children of divorce and they're like, oh, I totally feel like that too.
Yeah.
You feel like you have to take sides.
Yeah.
And it's not because somebody made you feel like you had to do that.
Yeah.
It's just this thing that you're doing in your own head with guilt.
What do you think parents could do that are divorced to avoid their children having to feel that way? Like, what kind of things could they do?
I think leaving the kids out of most of the animosity and the down talking and when a children's an adult, obviously you can have an adult conversation about, this is how I felt when I got divorced. I mean, you can totally have that conversation, but you have a choice. You get to decide who you want in your life.
Yeah.
And the other parent does not get to speak that for you.
Right.
So there has to be this support of like, whatever you want, with boundaries, everybody can have a good relationship and a healthy environment.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for taking a chance on us and listening to our podcast. Our goal is for you to not only learn from us, but to learn with us. We've taken a leap on being pretty open about our blended family and how we do life in everything. We want to make sure we bring you all the things you want to hear. Always. So please, if you have specific questions like, how do I get along with my ex? Or how do I get along with his ex? Or how do I set some boundaries in place? Or why doesn't my stepson like me? Please email us with your questions. Email them to info@summerfelix.com because we want to answer those questions, and we aim to bring you the best guests and conversations to address your most burning issues about everything. Always. It does make such a huge difference when you feel secure, and you know that your child feels secure when they will start to talk about the other parent or the funny thing that they did, and that's what you want.
That's the place you want to achieve.
It's a good feeling, and you think it won't be because I think people will go through, oh, please don't tell me about what your dad is doing or what your mom is doing, but if you can get to this place where you're indifferent and you just realize that this is about moving forward and having a good experience for the kids instead of holding on to that animosity, which does absolutely no good. The past is the past. Like you said, living in the past, like like nothing good comes from that. And if you can just move forward and then you start to hear your kids talk about, oh, we had so much fun here, like that should make you feel good. Like, I'm so glad that you're having fun when you're at, that you have this other house, that you have a healthy relationship, or that, that's just such a good, like, secure thing that kids take into their future relationships when they become an adult. It's a maturity thing too.
Totally. And we've, luckily, our families managed to achieve that to a point where when my mom sees my brother from my father's marriage, she just wants to squeeze him. Like, she just loves that kid. It's not even her blood.
Right. But she knows that I will feel that way. I look at Logan and Chloe's little siblings. I'm like, they're so adorable. They're so cute. And I love hearing the stories that they tell. Because I'm like, that's so awesome that you get that.
That's it.
So like you said, it goes on. And I know this too. It also affects you having, like, when you have kids and how the family gets together. You know what I mean? Like, and I know your family's not here, but have they ever all been together for a child's celebration or something like that?
Yeah, there's definitely been birthday parties.
Yeah.
And there's questions from the grandkids like, why do I have 3 grandfathers? And then there was this like, wait, you used to be married to Papa, like to, like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and life's a journey. They say life's a journey because you think this is now. And then in 5 years' time, oh, this is happening. And oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
Divorce is forever.
Yeah.
But it's not a negative thing. There's a split. But it's like a tree.
Yeah.
The split comes.
Something negative if you make it negative.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can make it a beautiful thing and think of it, now there's more family. It's funny because even with grandparents, that stuff can happen, like where grandmothers are competing or where it's like, oh, you did that with the other grandmother, but that can happen in just a regular when you're still together, but it can especially happen, oh my gosh, no, there's all these other grandmothers.
We could have had even more challenges had we all been in the same town. I'm sure you're going to interview people that have.
Oh, yeah.
You've been through it too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we didn't, and maybe that was a blessing.
Yeah.
We were just, there was a distance.
Yeah.
And when we are together, it's just all about the positive.
Yeah. What was the age, because you have younger siblings, what was the age where you really started to bond and become closer to your younger siblings?
I think for me, the focus was, like, at first, my father. Like, I was a 19-year-old going, I want this person in my life. Like, it's not enough for me that I have my mom, my stepdad, my brothers, my grandfather. He's not dead. He's alive. I want him in my life.
Yeah.
My brother and I flew to Cape Town, and we celebrated his 50th birthday, and we actually threw quite a big party with the help of his wife. And I think that was just a kind of a breaking point of like, oh no, we're going to see you every year now. This is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And then the relationship with the children just like came.
Yeah.
Lance must have been 15. I don't even remember. They don't remember us not being around.
Yeah.
We were always in their life. But let me tell you, we have made up for lost time.
Yeah, you have.
There's been some awesome trips. And, even with my family that I did grow up with, we've had to make up for lost time because my husband's taken me all over the world. And
right.
We've been all over the place.
I love it. So what are some of the, like, if you could give parents advice, coming from, looking back to your experiences growing up, and even if it's not necessarily anything you've gone through, but just things that you've noticed or other families that you see, because we have a lot of those, today it's a prevalent thing. What are some things that you would say or some advice that you would give to divorced parents?
I think I listened to a couple of your previous ones where it was like parents down talking the spouse to the
that's
child.
like our biggest pet peeve.
Not getting along, having the children in the middle of that conflict and that animosity, confiding in your kids, like your kids aren't your therapist, that podcast you did before.
Yeah.
Kids just need to be allowed to be kids, and they're already trying to cope with the fact that there is a split.
Yeah.
Like they have enough on their shoulders. They don't need to know every detail of
they're not someone to get on your side or to leverage or anything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And just let those relationships be. I understand when a parent wants to protect a child from another parent.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's definitely a time where you go, no, that's, boundaries.
Yeah.
But if there's nothing to fear, let that child go and discover that relationship.
Yeah.
And if that person's not a good person, they will find out in time. Let that happen.
It does. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And it will
if you
happen.
hold a child to, you're not doing this, guess what? That's what the child's going to want to do.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it anyway. Just be open to the other side. It's nothing, you can't fight it.
Yeah.
You know? And to the children, don't let that guilt get to you.
Yeah.
You've been put on this earth to love everybody, and we have enough capacity to love everybody. So don't feel like, ooh, if I go stay over at my stepmom's house, my mom's gonna feel betrayed.
Right.
Not okay.
No. It's so awesome that you have the perception that you do. Because honestly, I look back and I go, I wonder how I would have dealt with, it would have been like, traumatizing for me only because I've known my parents together all these years. It would have been, and all I can think of is, if I don't know. I just don't know how it would be. I would think it would seem very hard, just really, really hard to have that positive outlook if you are feeling guilt or pain or any of that stuff. So it's an inspiration to hear that from you, because I've just seen kids go through it where they're like, and it pains me to go, you shouldn't have to deal with all this feeling of guilt or, feeling like you're in the middle, or feeling like all this, like you said, like it's this huge burden on their shoulders, and they're like young.
Yeah.
Like they have there's real actual things that happen as an adult that's like real stress that you're going to go through. There's relationship problems, all that kind of stuff. Deal with that then. And if you can avoid them having to feel these things, please do it.
But like I said before, sometimes it's not even something that someone's putting onto you. It's something that
but sometimes you just have yourself. That's the thing. And so like, I feel like I would probably feel that, even though I think if my parents had gotten divorced, I bet they would have been, that's just my assumption. Them. They probably would have been very mature about it and friendly or whatever. But I might have had some guilt. Like, is it because this? Is it because that? Yeah. Even if they didn't put that on me, it's just, sometimes you just think that when something goes wrong as a kid. So then to have like that, especially you at a young age, to have that mindset of, I'm going to turn this into a positive thing, that's a hard thing. And I've seen you talk to other kids too about it, like you can do this. And some kids are just like, no,
well, there's
you don't understand, and you don't this. And it's
so
hard.
Any hardship in life eventually makes you strong. I mean, I'm not saying that I was like this as a 10-year-old.
Right.
I'm 40 this year. It's taken me this long to really get here and to be able to share my story with others. One thing I never did was go to therapy. And that's something I think that I would go back and change. Yeah. And I would advise children to do. I don't know why I didn't. I just wasn't up to talking about my story. I felt like it was shameful at the time. Now I'm like, it's not shameful, and I'm going to share it, and I'm going to help other people. Yeah. But, hardships make you stronger. And what I've really taken from my experience is that you are responsible for your happiness. Yeah. Nobody else. Absolutely. And I've gone ahead and done that. I've gone, what do I want from my life? Mm-hmm. Well, I want everybody in my family to be a part of my life, and vice versa. And that must have come from my childhood. My mom must have done a great job ingraining that into me, like, family is everything. Yeah. And that's important. And that is the most important thing. You have a beautiful marriage with your husband. He's an amazing dad. You're an amazing mom. Together, you guys have so much fun together. You're just great, great partners and parents together. And, sometimes people say, oh, I came from a divorced family, so obviously I'm going to get divorced or this or that. Look at me. My parents are still married. I got divorced the first time. So it doesn't mean, either or. But do you think that your experience growing up, like, how do you think it has affected you and your marriage, and how has it affected you as a parent? Like, what things? I mean, positively, it's made me a very intentional person. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of thing that makes relationships work. Mm-hmm. I'm very intentional with my family, with my husband, my friends. Your friends, I know. My children, like, it's about intention. It's about what do I want this relationship to look like? Working at the relationship, talking. Yeah, it's just made me strong and determined. Mm-hmm. Determined to make it work. Yeah. Well, I think there's so many good takeaways here, and I want to have them like all bulleted out in a little cheat sheet. So I'll make sure that we do that. And, at the heart of it,
really like what you said is your happiness is your choice. And that's really, if you focus, what I'm taking away from this is if you know that you're responsible for your happiness and you take that on, speaking to all, like everything that we talked about with the parents, then that if you do that, that animosity, like you don't want to feel that animosity. That when you feel that, that's not happiness. You're letting that trump
Steal
your joy. Yeah. And so, things like all being in the same room together, being a part of all of those experiences, and just really letting that past go and just focus on the future and the happiness of your future and what it is that you really want and what kind of relationship do you want to have with these people and with your family.
If you're feeling that animosity, it's because you still have work to do.
Yeah.
And that work could be sitting down with the person who you feel animosity towards, or that work could be internal.
Just with yourself.
And you cannot come out of a divorce being unscathed. Nobody can.
Oh, of course not.
So step by step, you slowly rid yourself of those feelings.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yay.
This is so fun.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to our podcast. You know what they say, if you can't find what you're looking for, then you need to create it. So that's what we did.
Yep, I scoured the internet and looked for the tribe that spoke to me, and I just couldn't find the community that was raw, vulnerable, and really wanting to make a change to the millions of families like ours. So I decided to create it. It took about one conversation for my husband to say, I'm in, and here we are.
But it takes listeners like you to keep it alive.
So please, if you like this, write a review, take a screenshot, share it on your social media. Tell people, it means the world to us.
Remember to email us. We would love to hear from you.
And please share this with someone you love.
And be bold enough to share it with someone that you don't.